The text was supposed to save her life. Instead, it went to a complete stranger. Lena Carter's hands trembled as she hit send, a desperate SOS meant for her best friend. But panic makes you sloppy. And now, sitting across from a man whose smile had turned predatory, she realized her mistake too late. Ethan's fingers tightened around her wrist. His voice dropped low, possessive. "You're not going anywhere." Her phone buzzed. "Stay where you are. I'm coming." She didn't know who answered. She didn't know what was coming. But in 8 minutes, a stranger would walk through that door and rewrite her entire life. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The restaurant was too nice for what this was turning into. Candlelight flickered across white tablecloths. Soft jazz drifted through speakers hidden somewhere in the exposed brick walls, and every couple around them looked perfectly content. Normal. Safe. Everything Lena had thought this evening would be when she'd said yes to dinner with Ethan Cole 3 days ago. She'd been wrong. "You're not listening to me." Ethan's voice cut through her thoughts, sharp enough to make her flinch. Lena's gaze snapped back to him. "I am. You keep looking around like you're bored." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, that smile still plastered across his face, but it didn't reach his eyes anymore. Hadn't for the last 20 minutes. "Am I boring you, Lena?" "No, of course not." The lie tasted bitter. She reached for her wine glass, needing something to do with her hands, but Ethan's fingers wrapped around her wrist before she could lift it. Not hard, not enough to hurt, just enough to stop her. "Then pay attention when I'm talking to you." Her stomach dropped. The noise of the restaurant faded into background static. All she could focus on was the pressure of his grip, the way his thumb pressed against her pulse point like he was measuring how fast her heart was racing. This wasn't normal. This wasn't okay. "Ethan?" She kept her voice steady, controlled. "Let go." For a second, he didn't move, just stared at her with those pale blue eyes that had seemed so warm when they'd met at the coffee shop last week. He'd been charming then, funny, a little self-deprecating in that way that made you want to know more. That man was gone. "Please," she added, hating how small the word sounded. He released her wrist and sat back, but the smile never wavered. "Sorry, I just get intense sometimes. You'll get used to it." She wouldn't. She knew that with sudden, crystalline clarity. This was a first date, their first date, and already he was talking about her getting used to things. Already he was testing boundaries, seeing how much she'd tolerate. Lena had seen this before. Not with herself, she'd been lucky until now, but with friends. With her cousin Rachel, who'd dated a guy for 2 years before she finally admitted he'd been controlling her the whole time. It always started small. Little comments, tiny invasions disguised as affection. She wasn't going to be another story like that. "I need to use the restroom," Lena said, pushing her chair back. Ethan's expression flickered. "Now?" "Yeah, now. Our food will be here in 5 minutes. Then I'll be quick." She stood before he could say anything else, grabbing her purse from the back of her chair. His hand shot out, catching her arm. "Lena." Her heart hammered against her ribs. Around them, the restaurant continued its oblivious rhythm. A waiter laughed at something near the bar. Someone's fork clinked against a plate. No one was looking at them. No one saw the way Ethan's fingers dug into her forearm. "I'll be right back," she said firmly. He studied her face for a long moment, then released her. "Don't be long." She didn't answer, just turned and walked toward the back of the restaurant, past tables full of people who had no idea what was happening. Her legs felt shaky, unsteady. She pushed through the door marked with a cursive "Ladies" and locked herself in the single-stall bathroom. The air rushed out of her lungs all at once. Her reflection stared back from the mirror above the sink, pale face, wide eyes, lipstick that suddenly seemed too bright. She looked like someone playing dress-up, someone pretending to be fine. Her phone. She needed her phone. Lena dug through her purse with trembling fingers and pulled it out. She should call someone. Her best friend Maya would answer. Maya always answered. But what would she even say? "Hey, this guy I'm on a date with is being creepy. Can you come get me?" No. That felt like overreacting. Maybe she was reading too much into this. Maybe Ethan was just awkward and she was being paranoid, except her wrist still tingled where he'd grabbed it, and her instincts were screaming at her to run. She opened her messages, found Maya's name, and started typing.
Maya, I need help. I'm at Bellissimo on 5th. This date is going bad. Can you call me in 5 minutes with a fake emergency? Her thumb hovered over the send button.
Through the bathroom door, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, deliberate. Lena? Ethan's voice, muffled but close. You okay in there? Ice slid down her spine. Fine, she called out, hating how her voice cracked. Just a minute. She hit send without looking, shoved her phone back in her purse, and turned on the faucet. The water ran cold over her hands. She counted to 10, forcing herself to breathe normally, then dried her hands and unlocked the door. Ethan was standing right outside. I got worried, he said, but he didn't move out of her way. The hallway was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people, and he was blocking the path back to the dining room. I'm fine. Lena tried to step around him. He shifted, mirroring her movement. You seemed upset. I'm not. You are. He reached up, and she flinched before she could stop herself. His hand froze in midair, and something dark flashed across his face. I'm not going to hurt you, Lena. I just want to make sure we're okay. We're fine. Can we go back to the table? In a second. He lowered his hand but didn't move. I need you to understand something. I really like you. I don't want to mess this up. Her pulse thundered in her ears. You're not messing anything up. Good. He smiled, and it was worse than the cold look from before because this one was meant to be reassuring, meant to make her feel safe. Because I think we could have something special. Don't you feel it? No. She felt trapped in a hallway with a man who couldn't read basic social cues, or worse, could read them perfectly and just didn't care. Sure, she heard herself say. I knew you did. He finally stepped aside, gesturing for her to go ahead. After you. Lena walked past him on legs that didn't feel like her own. Back into the dining room, back to their table where 2 plates of pasta had been delivered in her absence. It looked expensive, probably delicious. She couldn't imagine eating a single bite. She sat down. Ethan sat across from her, unfolding his napkin with the kind of casual precision that made her skin crawl. Her phone buzzed in her purse. Relief flooded through her. Maya. It had to be Maya calling with the fake emergency, giving her an out. Aren't you going to check that? Ethan asked, twirling pasta onto his fork. It can wait. It might be important. The buzzing stopped, then started again immediately. Not a call. Texts. Multiple texts. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Seems urgent. Her hand shook as she pulled out her phone, but when she looked at the screen, her blood went cold. The messages weren't from Maya. They were from a number she didn't recognize. Got your message. Where exactly are you sitting? Bellissimo on 5th. I'm 2 minutes out. Do not let him know anything is wrong. Stay where you are. I'm coming. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She read the messages again, her brain struggling to process what she was seeing. She'd sent the text to the wrong number, to a complete stranger, and that stranger was on their way here. Who is it? Ethan's voice cut through her panic. Nobody. Just work. She set the phone face down on the table, her mind racing. This was bad. This was so bad. She'd just sent a distress signal to some random person who was now apparently coming to, what? Rescue her? She needed to send another text, tell them it was a mistake, that she was fine, except she wasn't fine. And before she could pick up her phone again, before she could do anything, the temperature in the restaurant dropped. Not literally, but Lena felt it, a shift in the air, a change in pressure that made every nerve ending stand at attention. The front door opened. She didn't turn around, didn't need to. She could track the newcomer's movement by the way conversation stuttered and died at nearby tables, by the way the hostess's professional smile faltered. Footsteps approached their table, slow, unhurried. Ethan looked up, irritation flashing across his face. Can I help you? No. The voice was quiet, deep, absolutely certain. But I can help her. Lena turned. The man standing beside their table didn't look like a rescuer. He looked like the kind of person you cross the street to avoid. Tall, at least 6'3", with dark hair pushed back from a face that was all sharp angles and harder edges. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her rent, and he moved like someone who'd never questioned his right to be anywhere he chose to be. His eyes found hers, dark, unreadable. "Are you all right?" he asked, and despite the quietness of his tone, it wasn't really a question. Ethan stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Excuse me? We're in the middle of dinner." The stranger didn't even glance at him. His gaze stayed locked on Lena, waiting. She should tell him to leave, should explain that this was all a mistake, a wrong number, a stupid moment of panic that had spiraled into something absurd. But Ethan's hand was already moving toward her shoulder, possessive and presumptuous, and the words that came out of her mouth surprised her. "I'm ready to go." Ethan's face went red. "What?" She stood up, grabbing her purse. Her legs still felt unsteady, but her voice came out stronger than before. "I want to leave." "We haven't even finished eating. Lena, sit down. We need to talk about this." "No," she said simply. Ethan moved to block her path, and that's when the stranger finally acknowledged his existence. "Step back." 2 words. That's all it took. Ethan looked at the stranger properly for the first time, and whatever he saw there made him go still. The color drained from his face. For a moment, Lena thought he might actually back down. Instead, he puffed up like a threatened animal. "Who the hell do you think you are?" "Someone you don't want to know." The stranger's expression didn't change. "Move." "This is insane. Lena, tell him. I asked you to let go of me twice tonight," Lena interrupted, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. "You didn't listen, so yeah, I texted someone for help. And now I'm leaving." Ethan's mouth opened and closed. He looked between her and the stranger, clearly trying to calculate his next move. The stranger reached into his jacket. Ethan flinched, hands coming up defensively. But the stranger only pulled out a wallet, extracted several bills without counting them, and dropped them on the table. Way more than enough to cover the meal. "For the inconvenience," he said to no one in particular. Then he looked at Lena and held out his hand. Not grabbing, not demanding, just offering. She took it. His palm was warm, calloused, and the moment her fingers touched his, she felt that shift again, like the world had tilted slightly off its axis and nothing would ever be quite the same. He led her toward the door. She half expected Ethan to follow, to make a scene, but when she glanced back, he was just standing there, face twisted with impotent rage, and something else. Something that looked almost like fear. The cool evening air hit her face as they stepped outside. The street was busy with the usual Friday night crowd, people laughing, talking, heading to bars and shows and late dinners. Normal life, the kind she'd thought she'd been living an hour ago. The stranger's hand was still wrapped around hers. "My car's around the corner," he said, already moving in that direction. Reality crashed back in. Lena pulled her hand free and stopped walking. He turned, one eyebrow raised. "I don't—" She took a breath. Started again. "I don't know you." "No. I don't even know your name." "Adrian Vale." "Okay. Adrian." The name felt strange in her mouth, foreign. "Thank you for whatever that was, but I can't just get in a car with you." Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. Probably smart. "So I'm going to call a cab and he's going to follow you." Adrian's gaze moved past her, back toward the restaurant. "He's watching us right now through the window. The second I leave, he'll come out here. Offer to give you a ride home since the date was cut short. Apologize. Make you feel like you overreacted." Lena didn't want to turn around. Didn't want to know if he was right. "And if you say no," Adrian continued, his voice matter-of-fact, "he'll wait. Follow your cab. Find out where you live. Men like that don't let go easily." Her stomach turned over. "You don't know that." "I do." The certainty in his voice made her look at him properly. Really look. He wasn't trying to scare her, wasn't exaggerating for effect. He was just stating facts. "How?" she asked. "Because I've known men like him my entire life." Adrian pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, and held it up to show her. "Black SUV, license plate VGH8847. That's my car. My driver's name is Marcus. He's been with me for 6 years. I'm going to walk to that corner, get in the back seat, and Marcus is going to drive me home. You can stand right here and watch the whole thing. Take a picture of the license plate. Send it to your friends. Do whatever makes you feel safe."
He pocketed his phone and met her eyes. Or, he said quietly, you can get in the car with me. I'll take you wherever you want to go. No expectations, no strings. And tomorrow, if you want to thank me, curse me out, or pretend this never happened, that's your choice. Lena's heart was hammering again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something more complicated. Some messy tangle of adrenaline and confusion and the bone-deep exhaustion that came from holding yourself together when everything wanted to fall apart. She looked back at the restaurant. Ethan was exactly where Adrian said he'd be, standing at the window, watching them. She looked at Adrian again, at his expensive suit and his unreadable face and his hands that had been gentle when they didn't have to be. Every piece of common sense she possessed was screaming at her to walk away, to call Maya, to get a cab and go home and block Ethan's number and chalk this up as a dodged bullet. But common sense was what had gotten her into that restaurant in the first place. Common sense said, give people chances. Don't judge too quickly. Maybe you're overreacting. Screw common sense. Okay, Lena said. Adrian's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or approval. Okay, he echoed. They walked to the corner in silence. The SUV was exactly where he'd said it would be, black and sleek, and so clean it looked like it had just rolled off a showroom floor. The driver's side window rolled down as they approached, revealing a man in his 50s with steel gray hair and the kind of face that had seen everything twice. Marcus, Adrian said, this is Lena. We're taking her home. Marcus nodded once. Miss. Hi, Lena managed. Adrian opened the back door and gestured for her to get in first. The interior smelled like leather and something expensive she couldn't name. She slid across the seat and Adrian followed, leaving a careful distance between them. The door closed with a quiet, solid thunk. Where to? Marcus asked, meeting her eyes in the rearview mirror. Lena gave him her address. As they pulled away from the curb, she couldn't help glancing back. Ethan had left the window. The restaurant door swung open, and he stepped out onto the sidewalk, phone already pressed to his ear. He's calling someone, she said without meaning to. Let him. Adrian's tone was unconcerned. It won't matter. She wanted to ask what that meant. Wanted to ask 100 questions, actually, starting with why a stranger would drop everything to help someone he'd never met. But her throat felt tight, and her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off, and all she could do was sit there while the city blurred past the tinted windows. They drove in silence for several blocks. The streetlights painted streaks of gold across the glass. The radio was off. The only sound was the quiet hum of the engine and the distant noise of traffic. You sent that text to me by mistake, Adrian said finally. It wasn't a question, but Lena nodded anyway. I was trying to message my friend Maya. I must have... She trailed off. She didn't actually know how she'd sent it to him. Didn't recognize his number at all. Is she expecting to hear from you? No, I mean, yes, eventually. Her brain felt like it was moving through mud. I should call her. She pulled out her phone. 11 missed texts from Maya, each one more frantic than the last. Emergency? What's wrong? Lena, you're scaring me. I'm calling... Why aren't you answering? If you don't respond in 5 minutes, I'm calling the police. Oh no! Lena immediately hit the call button. Maya answered before the first ring finished. Where the hell have you been? I'm okay. I'm sorry. I'm fine. You sent me a 911 text about your date going bad and then disappeared for 30 minutes. I know. I'm sorry. It's complicated. Are you safe? Where are you? Lena glanced at Adrian, who was looking out the window like this conversation had nothing to do with him. I'm in a car. Heading home. Whose car? Did you call an Uber? Are you alone? No, I'm... How did she explain this? There's someone with me. Someone who helped. What does that mean? Lena, you're freaking me out. I'm okay, Lena said again, trying to inject some conviction into her voice. Really. The date was bad. Really bad. But I'm safe now. I'll explain everything later, I promise. A long pause. Then Maya's voice, quieter, but somehow more intense. If you're in danger and can't talk, say something about pineapple pizza. Despite everything, Lena almost laughed.
I'm not in danger. I don't need the code word. You swear? I swear. Another pause. I'm tracking your phone. Maya, non-negotiable. You went dark for 30 minutes after sending an SOS. I'm tracking your phone until you're inside your apartment and I can see you're actually okay. Lena sighed. Fine. Text me when you're home. And Lena? Yeah? Next time you go on a date with someone from a dating app, I'm running a full background check first. They said goodbye and Lena lowered the phone to her lap. Her hands had finally stopped shaking. Good friend, Adrian observed. The best. She's right, though. Background checks. Always a good idea. Lena looked at him. Is that what you would have found if you'd looked up Ethan? That he was dangerous? Maybe. Maybe not. Men like that are often good at hiding it. He shifted slightly, turning to face her more directly. Can I ask you something? She nodded. When did you know? Know what? That you needed to leave. Lena thought about it. The moment Ethan's smile had changed, the grip on her wrist, the way he'd followed her to the bathroom. About halfway through dinner, she said, he grabbed my wrist when I tried to drink my wine, and I knew if I didn't get out then, it was only going to get worse. And you texted for help instead of just leaving. It wasn't a criticism, just an observation, but Lena felt defensive anyway. He would have stopped me, or followed me. I needed... She struggled to find the right words. I needed someone on my side. Adrian was quiet for a moment. You have good instincts, not good enough to avoid the date in the first place. You can't know someone's dangerous until they show you, and by then, it's usually too late to avoid them safely. He said it like he was speaking from experience. The SUV turned onto her street. Lena recognized the bodega on the corner, the coffee shop she went to every morning, the brick facade of her building. They pulled up to the curb, and Marcus put the car in park but left the engine running. Thank you, Lena said. The words felt inadequate. For coming, for helping, for not being a different kind of threat. Adrian's mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. Yeah. He reached into his jacket again, the same motion that had made Ethan flinch, and pulled out a business card. Plain white, black text, just a name and a phone number. If he contacts you again, Adrian said, holding it out, call me. Lena took the card. The paper was heavy, expensive. You think he will? I think men like Ethan don't handle rejection well, and I think he knows where you live now, if he didn't before. The fear she'd been pushing down all evening came roaring back. He followed my cab here last week. When we had coffee, I thought it was sweet. I told him my address. Then yes, he'll contact you. Adrian's expression didn't change, but his voice hardened. Don't answer. Don't engage. And if he shows up here, call me first, then call the police. Why you first? Because the police will take a report and tell you to get a restraining order. I'll make sure he doesn't come back. The certainty in his voice should have been alarming, should have triggered every warning bell about toxic masculinity and men who solved problems with violence. Instead, Lena just felt relieved. Who are you? She asked. Really? Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Someone who doesn't like men who hurt women. It wasn't an answer, not really, but it was all she was going to get tonight. Marcus cleared his throat gently. Sir, there's a vehicle that's been following us since Bellissimo. Lena's blood went cold. Adrian didn't look surprised. Description? Gray sedan, 2 occupants, staying 3 cars back. Ethan, Lena breathed. Adrian pulled out his phone and made a call. It was answered immediately. I need a location check on a gray sedan. He listened for a moment, then rattled off a license plate number that Marcus must have given him silently. Yes, now. Another pause. Good. Send 2 cars. I want them off my route within the next 4 blocks. He ended the call and looked at Lena. You're not going inside yet. What? Why? Because I'm not leaving you until I know you're safe, and right now you're not safe. But my apartment is exactly where he thinks you'll go. We're going to drive around for a few minutes while my security handles this. Your security? Lena's voice pitched up. Who the hell are you? Adrian's expression finally shifted. Something that wasn't quite amusement, wasn't quite regret. Someone who made a very specific life, he said quietly.
Someone with resources. Someone who doesn't normally... He trailed off, then started again. I don't usually get involved in things like this. Then why did you? Because you asked. I didn't ask you. I didn't even know you. You asked for help. That was enough. Marcus pulled back into traffic, smooth and unhurried. Lena looked out the back window but couldn't identify which car might be following them. They all looked the same in the dark. Her phone buzzed. Maya, you still in the car? Yeah. Why aren't you moving toward your apartment anymore? It's complicated, Lena. I swear to God if you don't give me a real answer.
The date guy might have followed me. The person who helped is making sure I'm safe before I go inside. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. I'm coming over. No, don't too late. I'm already in a cab. Lena closed her eyes. This night just kept getting worse. Problem? Adrian asked. My friend is on her way to my apartment. The one who was tracking you? Yeah. Smart. He made another call. I need a detail at the address we just left. Female, mid-20s, arriving by cab in the next 15 minutes. Make sure she gets inside safely. He listened. No, civilian. Friend of the principal. Another pause. Yes. Discreet. He hung up and looked at Lena. Your friend will be fine. You're sending people to watch her? I'm sending people to make sure nobody bothers her. That's the same thing. No, Adrian said. It's not. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then caught Adrian's eyes in the mirror. They've got the sedan, 2 blocks east. No incidents. Good. Take us back. The SUV made a smooth U-turn. Lena watched the streets pass, her mind struggling to process everything. Less than 2 hours ago, she'd been getting ready for a normal date. Now she was in the back of a stranger's car while his private security dealt with her stalker. This wasn't real life. This was a movie. A thriller where nothing made sense and everything happened too fast. Except it was real. The leather seat under her was real. The city lights were real. The business card in her hand was real. They pulled up to her building again. This time, there was another SUV parked across the street. Adrian saw her looking. They'll stay for a few hours, he said. Make sure nobody approaches the building. You can't just station people outside my apartment.
I can. I am. For how long? Until I'm satisfied you're safe. Lena turned to face him. You don't even know me. No. This is insane. Probably. I can take care of myself. I don't doubt it. Adrian's expression was unreadable. But you shouldn't have to. Not tonight. Something in her chest cracked open. She'd been holding herself together so tightly, being so careful, so controlled. And here was this stranger telling her she didn't have to be. Tears burned behind her eyes. She blinked them back. I should go, she managed. You should. Neither of them moved. Your friend is waiting, Adrian added. Right. Lena reached for the door handle. Her hand was shaking again. Lena, she looked back. Keep that card, he said. Use it if you need to. I won't need to. Keep it anyway. Marcus got out and came around to open her door. The night air was cooler now, with that bite that meant summer was finally giving up. Lena stepped onto the sidewalk and realized her legs were still unsteady. The building door opened and Maya came bursting out. Lena! She practically ran down the steps, her dark hair flying, still wearing the yoga pants and oversized sweatshirt she'd probably been in all evening. Are you okay? What happened? Why were you... She stopped short, her gaze landing on the SUV, on Marcus standing at attention, on Adrian visible through the open door. What the hell? Maya breathed. It's fine. I'm fine. Lena grabbed her friend's arm. Let's go inside. But Maya was staring at Adrian with an expression Lena couldn't quite read. Recognition? Fear? She couldn't tell. Do you know who that is? Maya whispered. Adrian Vale. He helped me. Helped you? Maya's voice pitched up. Lena, that's Adrian Vale. You said that already. No, you don't understand. He's... She lowered her voice even more. He's not a good person to owe favors to. Something cold slithered down Lena's spine. What are you talking about? Later. Inside. Now. Maya practically dragged her toward the building.
Lena glanced back once. Adrian was still sitting in the SUV, watching them. Their eyes met. He nodded once. Then Marcus closed the door, and the SUV pulled away from the curb, disappearing into the stream of traffic like it had never been there at all. Only it had been. And the business card in Lena's pocket and the SUV parked across the street and the way her hands were still shaking proved it. Maya hauled her up the stairs and into her apartment. The moment the door closed, she rounded on Lena. "Start from the beginning," she demanded, "and don't leave anything out." So Lena told her. All of it. The dinner, Ethan's behavior, the bathroom, the text sent to the wrong number, Adrian showing up, the drive, the security. Maya listened without interrupting, her expression cycling through horror and disbelief and something darker. When Lena finished, Maya was silent for a long moment. "You sent an SOS to Adrian Vale," she said finally. "I sent it to the wrong number. I didn't know it was him. And he just came?" "Yes." "No questions? No demands?" "He gave me his business card and told me to call if Ethan contacted me again." Maya laughed. It sounded slightly hysterical. "Of course he did." "Maya, you're scaring me. Who is he?" Her friend sat down on the couch and patted the cushion beside her. Lena sat. "Adrian Vale," Maya said slowly, "is not someone who does favors for free. He's connected, really connected, the kind of person who knows people who know people. My brother, the one who works in finance, he told me about him once. Said Vale's family has ties to, let's call them business interests that don't always operate in the daylight." Lena's stomach dropped. "You think he's in the mob?" "I think he's in something, and I think you accidentally got his attention." "So what? He seemed nice. He helped me. He also stationed security outside your apartment without asking permission. That's not normal, Lena. That's possessive. Or protective. There's a difference?" Lena thought about the way Adrian had looked at Ethan, the quiet certainty in his voice when he told her to call him first if there was trouble. "Maybe not," she admitted. They sat in silence for a minute. Outside, a siren wailed past. Normal city noise, normal Friday night. Nothing felt normal anymore. "What do I do?" Lena asked. "You block Ethan's number. You keep your doors locked. And you—" Maya hesitated. "You don't call Adrian Vale unless you absolutely have to." "Why?" "Because men like that don't help people without expecting something in return eventually." Lena pulled the business card from her pocket and stared at it. Plain white. Black text. A phone number that probably connected to a world she knew nothing about. She should throw it away, should listen to Maya's warning. Instead, she slipped it back into her pocket. "I'm going to take a shower," she said, standing up. "Lena, I know. I'll be careful. I promise." She locked herself in the bathroom and turned the water as hot as it would go. Steam filled the small space, fogging the mirror. She stepped under the spray and finally let herself shake apart. The water ran cold before Lena got out of the shower. She stood there shivering, watching the steam dissipate, trying to wash away the feeling of Ethan's hand on her wrist, the memory of his smile turning sharp, the way he'd looked at her through the restaurant window. When she finally emerged, wrapped in her oldest, softest bathrobe, Maya was still on the couch. But she wasn't alone anymore. "Please don't freak out," Maya said immediately. Lena froze. Sitting in her armchair, her favorite reading spot with the broken spring she kept meaning to fix, was a woman in her late 20s with sharp cheekbones and eyes that missed nothing. She wore all black and had the kind of posture that suggested military training. "Who the hell is this?" "My name is Reese." The woman stood smoothly. "Mr. Vale asked me to check the apartment. Make sure the locks are secure. Standard precaution." "Get out." "Lena," Maya started. "No, get out of my apartment right now." Reese held up both hands. "I understand this is intrusive, but your ex-date knows where you live. The lobby door downstairs has a broken lock. Anyone can walk right in. Your apartment door is hollow core, easy to kick in, and you have a fire escape window that doesn't latch properly." Lena's mouth went dry. "How do you know about my fire escape?" "Because I checked it, from the outside." Reese pulled a small card from her pocket and set it on the coffee table. "These are contacts for a locksmith who can be here first thing tomorrow. They'll replace your door lock with a deadbolt and fix the fire escape. Mr. Vale is covering the cost." "I don't want his money. It's not about what you want. It's about keeping you safe." Reese's expression softened slightly. Look, I know this seems like a lot, but men like the one from tonight don't just disappear because you said no. They escalate. I've seen it happen. So have I, Maya said quietly. She was looking at Lena with an expression that made her stomach hurt. Remember my cousin Jess? Lena did. Jess had dated a guy for 3 months who seemed perfect until he wasn't. When she tried to break up with him, he'd shown up at her work, her gym, her parents' house. It had taken a restraining order and 2 arrests before he'd finally stopped. That's different, Lena said, but even she could hear how weak it sounded. Is it? Reese asked. The man followed you home from a coffee shop, grabbed you twice during dinner, followed your car when you left. What part of that sounds different? Lena sat down on the arm of the couch. Her legs felt shaky again. I'm going to leave these contacts, Reese said, gesturing to the card, and I'm going to recommend you call them, but it's your choice. She moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Mr. Vale doesn't usually do this. Help random people. Whatever you said to him tonight, it mattered. I didn't say anything special. I just asked for help. Something flickered across Reese's face. Yeah, that would do it. She left, closing the door quietly behind her. Maya immediately got up and engaged the chain lock. Okay, she said, turning around. We need to talk about what's happening here. I know what's happening. Some guy I went on one bad date with is acting like a psycho, and another guy I don't know is acting like my personal security detail. Right, and which one scares you more? Lena opened her mouth, closed it, because the honest answer was neither and both, and she didn't know how to explain that. Ethan scares me, she said finally. Adrian doesn't. He should. Based on everything you said, I should be terrified, but I'm not. That's what worries me. Maya sat down beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. They'd been friends since freshman year of college, had seen each other through bad breakups and worse decisions. If anyone had earned the right to be brutally honest, it was Maya. I think you're in shock, Maya said. I think you had a terrifying experience tonight, and Adrian showed up at exactly the right moment to be your hero. And now you're conflating safety with him specifically when really you're just safe because you got away from Ethan. Maybe. Definitely. Maya squeezed her hand. Look, I'm not saying Adrian is evil. I'm saying he's dangerous, and there's a difference between someone helping you in a crisis and someone being safe to have in your life long term. I'm not planning to have him in my life. He gave me his number in case Ethan contacts me again. That's it. You sure about that? Lena thought about the way Adrian had looked at her, the careful distance he'd maintained in the car, the fact that he'd sent someone to check her apartment instead of doing it himself. Yes, she said. Maya didn't look convinced, but she let it drop. I'm staying here tonight. You don't have to. I'm staying. Her voice left no room for argument. You've got class tomorrow morning, right? Lena had completely forgotten. Yeah, 9 a.m. lecture. Okay, so we're going to order Thai food, watch something stupid on Netflix, and pretend tonight was just a regular Friday. It wasn't regular. The security camera Reese had pointed out in the hallway proved that. The business card in Lena's robe pocket proved that. The sick feeling in her stomach every time she thought about Ethan's face through the restaurant window proved that. But she nodded anyway. They ordered pad thai and spring rolls, put on a cooking competition show where people made elaborate cakes that always collapsed in the final round, acted like everything was fine. Lena's phone buzzed around 11. Unknown number. Her heart jumped into her throat. I can't believe you embarrassed me like that. We need to talk. Call me. She showed Maya without a word. Block him, Maya said immediately. Lena did. But 3 minutes later, a different number appeared. You're being childish. I'm trying to apologize and you won't even answer. This is exactly what I was talking about at dinner. You don't listen. Jesus Christ, Maya breathed. Lena blocked that number too, pulled Adrian's card from her pocket. Don't, Maya warned. I'm just going to tell him what's happening. Lena. But she was already typing. This is Lena Carter. Ethan has texted twice from different numbers. I've blocked both. The response came in less than 30 seconds. Forward the messages to me. Block any new numbers. If he calls, don't answer. She sent screenshots of both texts. Good. Get some sleep. My people will handle this. How? You don't need to know how. Just trust that he won't bother you again. Lena stared at the message, the implications behind it, the casual certainty that he could make a problem disappear without explaining the method. What did he say? Maya asked. That he'll handle it. That's what I was afraid of. They didn't talk about it after that. Just watched 2 more episodes of the show, brushed their teeth in the tiny bathroom they'd shared during countless sleepovers, and went to bed. Maya took the couch without being asked. Lena lay in her own bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city. A car alarm went off somewhere. Someone laughed in the apartment above, all the normal noises that usually lulled her to sleep. Tonight they just reminded her how thin her walls were, how easy it would be for someone to get in. She must have dozed eventually, because she woke to sunlight streaming through her window and the smell of coffee. Maya was already up, dressed in yesterday's clothes, scrolling through her phone at the kitchen counter. "Morning," she said without looking up. "Coffee's ready? You've got 40 minutes before class." Lena groaned and rolled out of bed. Her body ached like she'd run a marathon. Stress hangover. Her phone showed 3 new messages, all from blocked numbers. She didn't open them, just showed the notifications to Maya. "Still think I shouldn't have told Adrian?" Maya's jaw tightened. "Call the police." "And tell them what? A guy I went on one date with is texting me? It's harassment. It's annoying. There's a difference." Lena grabbed her coffee and took a long drink. The caffeine helped. A little. "I have to go to class." "I'm coming with you." "Maya, you don't even go to this school anymore. You graduated 2 years ago. So I'll wait outside. I'm not letting you walk around campus alone." They argued about it while Lena got dressed, brushed her teeth, tried to make her face look less like she'd spent the night crying in the shower. But Maya was immovable, and honestly, Lena was too tired to fight. The morning was cool and clear, the kind of fall day that usually made her happy. Students crowded the sidewalks, chatting about weekend plans and upcoming exams. Everything normal, except for the fact that Maya was walking beside her like a bodyguard, her eyes constantly scanning the crowd. "You're being paranoid," Lena said. "One of us should be." They were halfway to campus when Lena's phone rang. Unknown number. "Don't answer it," Maya said immediately. Lena silenced the call. It went to voicemail. 10 seconds later, her phone buzzed with a notification. Against her better judgment, she listened to it. Ethan's voice filled her ear, tight with barely controlled anger. "I don't know what you told that guy last night, but he had no right to interfere. We were having a conversation, a private conversation. You can't just run away every time things get a little intense. That's not how relationships work. Call me back so we can talk about this like adults." Her hands started shaking. Maya grabbed the phone and listened. Her expression went dark. "We're filing a police report," she said flatly. "It's one voicemail. It's threatening behavior, and it's going to get worse." Maya was already pulling up the number for campus security. "You're doing this, Lena. I don't care if you think I'm overreacting." They filed the report in a small office that smelled like old coffee and institutional cleaning products. The security officer, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, took notes while Lena explained what had happened. The dinner, the texts, the voicemail. "Do you have a current address for Mr. Cole?" the officer asked. Lena realized she didn't. She knew almost nothing about Ethan except what he'd told her during coffee, and all of that suddenly felt suspect. "We met on a dating app," she said. "I can give you his profile information." The officer nodded, making more notes. "I'm going to recommend you file for a restraining order. Given the escalating contact and the physical touching during your date, a judge will likely grant it." "How long does that take?" "Hearing will be scheduled within a few weeks. In the meantime, document everything. Every text, every call, every time you see him. Don't delete anything." Lena left the office feeling simultaneously relieved and more anxious. Maya walked her to the lecture hall, made her promise to text when class was over, and finally left. The lecture was about constitutional law. Lena didn't absorb a single word. She sat in the back row, phone face down on her desk, jumping every time someone walked past. Her phone buzzed. Not a call this time. A text from Adrian. Ethan Cole. 34 years old. Works in commercial real estate. Lives in Riverside Apartments, Unit 4B, divorced 8 months ago. Ex-wife filed a domestic disturbance report last November. No charges pressed. Lena's blood went cold. She stared at the message, reading it 3 times. How did you find this? I told you, I have resources. He has a pattern. You're not the first woman he's done this to. The police can't do anything until he actually hurts you. I can make sure he never gets that chance. How? No response. Class ended. Lena gathered her things on autopilot and walked out into the hallway. The crowd of students around her felt suffocating. Too many people. Too many faces she didn't recognize. She pulled out her phone to text Maya that she was done, and someone grabbed her arm. She spun around, heart hammering, and found herself face to face with a guy from her study group. Travis. Harmless. Friend of a friend.
Hey, he said, letting go immediately when he saw her expression. Sorry, didn't mean to freak you out. You dropped your pen. He held it out. Her favorite pen that she'd had since undergrad. Thanks, she managed. You okay? You look kind of tired. Long night. She forced a smile. I should go. She practically ran out of the building. Maya was waiting exactly where she'd said she'd be, leaning against a tree near the main quad. You look like you've seen a ghost, Maya said. Lena showed her Adrian's text messages. Maya's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, anger, fear. This is what I was talking about, she said finally. This. Right here. He just casually sent you someone's entire background. That's not normal. That's not legal. It's information I needed. You could have gotten it from the police. The police told me to document and wait. Adrian's telling me Ethan has done this before. And what exactly is Adrian planning to do with that information? Maya's voice was sharp. Have you thought about that? Because men like him don't just gather intel for fun. Lena had thought about it. Had thought about very little else since those messages came through. I don't care, she said. What? I don't care what Adrian does. Ethan grabbed me, followed me, is harassing me, and the legal system is going to take weeks or months to maybe do something about it. She could hear her voice rising and didn't care. So yeah, if Adrian wants to scare him off, I'm okay with that. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. For the first time since last night, actually. They stared at each other. Maya broke first, looking away. Just be careful, she said quietly. Men who solve problems the way Adrian does, they expect payment eventually. He hasn't asked me for anything. Not yet. They walked back to Lena's apartment in tense silence. The locksmith was already there, a cheerful older man named Pete, who was in the process of installing a new deadbolt. Mr. Vale sent me, he explained. Told me to do the door and the fire escape window. Won't take more than an hour. Maya raised her eyebrows at Lena but didn't say anything. Pete was good, efficient. He installed the deadbolt, reinforced the door frame, and added a latch to the fire escape window that actually worked. When he was done, he handed Lena 3 shiny new keys. You're all set, he said. Anyone tries to kick that door in now, they're going to have a bad time. After he left, Lena tested the new lock. It was solid, heavy, the kind of lock that made you feel safe. I'm going home, Maya said. I've got work in a few hours, but I want you to promise me something. What? Promise me you'll think about what you're doing. Really think about it, because once you're in Adrian Vale's world, getting out again might not be so easy. Lena promised, even though she wasn't sure it was a promise she could keep. Maya left. The apartment felt too quiet. Lena tried to study, tried to watch TV, tried to do anything that would keep her mind occupied. Nothing worked. Around 4 in the afternoon, her phone rang. Adrian. She answered before she could talk herself out of it. Hello? How are you holding up? His voice was the same as last night, quiet, certain. I filed a police report, got a new lock, trying not to think too hard about any of this. Good. A pause. Ethan called me this morning. Lena sat up straighter. What? He wanted to know who I was, what my interest in you was, suggested that I was interfering in something that wasn't my business. What did you tell him? That you are my business, and that if he contacted you again, he'd regret it. The words sent a shiver down her spine. Adrian. I also had my lawyer send him a cease and desist, official documentation that any further contact with you will result in legal action. His tone was matter of fact. It won't stop him if he's determined, but it creates a paper trail. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm calling because I want to meet with you, properly, not in the back of my car while you're in crisis. Her heart started beating faster. Why?
Because I want to explain some things. About who I am. What getting involved with me means. He hesitated, and it was the first time she'd heard him sound uncertain. You should know what you're stepping into before you go any further. I'm not stepping into anything. You helped me, that's all. Is it? The question hung between them. Lena thought about the business card she'd kept, the relief she'd felt when his messages came through, the way she'd defended him to Maya without really knowing anything about him. Where do you want to meet? She asked. Another pause. There's a coffee shop, neutral territory, tomorrow afternoon. I'll text you the address. Okay.
Lena. His voice softened. If you decide you don't want to come, I'll understand. I'll make sure Ethan leaves you alone either way. You don't owe me anything. I know. But she showed up anyway. The coffee shop was in a part of the city she didn't know well. Upscale without being pretentious. The kind of place where the espresso machine probably cost more than her car. Adrian was already there, sitting at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. He stood when she walked in. He looked different in daylight. Less like a shadow, more like a real person. The suit was gone, replaced by dark jeans and a sweater that probably still cost more than her entire wardrobe. But his eyes were the same. Dark. Watchful. You came, he said. You sound surprised. I am, a little. He gestured to the other chair. Can I get you something? Coffee? Tea? Coffee. Black. He went to the counter, came back with 2 cups. Sat down across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Your friend doesn't trust me, Adrian said finally. Can you blame her? No. He took a sip of his coffee. She's right not to. I'm not a good person to get involved with. Then why are we here? Because I'm selfish. He said it simply, without apology. Because when you sent that text, when you asked for help, I should have just made sure you got home safely and left it at that. But I didn't, and now I can't seem to stop thinking about you. Lena's breath caught. Adrian, let me finish. He leaned forward slightly. My family has money, power, connections. Some of those connections are legitimate, some aren't. I've spent my entire life in that world, and I've made choices I'm not proud of. I've hurt people who deserved it, and people who didn't. I'm telling you this because you should know. Why are you telling me? Because if you keep my number, if you call me again, if this becomes something more than a stranger helping you in a bad situation. He held her gaze. You need to know what that means. The scrutiny, the danger, the fact that my enemies will see you as a way to get to me. That sounds paranoid. It's realistic. His expression didn't change. 3 years ago, someone I cared about got caught in the crossfire of a business dispute. She wasn't part of my world, didn't know what she was walking into. And she got hurt because I wasn't careful enough. What happened to her? She left. Smart woman. Something flickered across his face. I swore I wouldn't put anyone in that position again. But here you are. Here I am. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Like I said, selfish. Lena wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. It was still too hot to drink, but she needed something to hold on to. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to understand what you're walking into, and then I want you to make a choice with actual information. What choice? Whether to keep my card or throw it away. Whether to block my number or keep it. Whether to walk out of here and never look back, or... He trailed off. Or what? Or see where this goes. Her heart was hammering again. This was insane. She barely knew this man. Everything Maya had said was true. He was dangerous, connected, involved in things she didn't understand. But he'd come when she called. Had protected her without asking for anything in return. Was sitting here telling her the truth instead of hiding behind charm and pretty words. I should walk away, she said. You should. Any rational person would. Absolutely. But I'm not going to. Adrian went very still. You're sure? No. She laughed, and it came out a little wild. I'm not sure about any of this. I just know that for the first time in my life, someone showed up when I needed them, and I don't think I'm ready to let that go yet. He reached across the table, slowly, giving her time to pull back. She didn't. His hand closed over hers, warm, solid, real. Then we do this carefully, he said, slowly, and the second you want out, you tell me, no questions, no consequences. You promise? I promise.
They sat there for a long moment, hands linked across the table, both of them probably making a terrible mistake. But it didn't feel terrible. It felt like standing at the edge of something vast and unknown and jumping anyway. They stayed at the coffee shop for 2 hours, long enough that Lena had to order a second cup just to justify taking up the table. Long enough that the afternoon light started slanting through the windows at a different angle, painting everything gold. Adrian told her about his family. Not everything. She could tell he was editing, choosing his words carefully, but enough. His father had built an empire from nothing, starting with construction contracts and expanding into real estate, shipping, investments. Legitimate businesses that provided cover for less legitimate ones. I grew up knowing not to ask certain questions, Adrian said, not to look too closely at who my father met with, where the money actually came from. He turned his coffee cup in slow circles. By the time I was old enough to understand, I was already part of it. You could have left. Could I? He looked at her. Where would I go? What would I do? This is all I know. That's not true. You know how to help people. You proved that. I proved I can intimidate someone into backing off. That's not the same thing. Lena thought about the way Ethan had looked at Adrian, the instant fear. What would you have done if he hadn't backed off? Do you really want to know? She did, and didn't. The contradiction sat uncomfortable in her chest. Tell me something else instead, she said. Something that has nothing to do with your family or business or any of this. Adrian leaned back in his chair, considering. I play piano. Really? My mother insisted, said every civilized person should know music. A faint smile crossed his face. I hated it at first. All those lessons, the rigid structure, but then I realized it was the only time no one asked me about the business. For an hour every week, I could just be someone playing Chopin. Do you still play? When I can't sleep. Lena tried to picture it. This man who moved through the world like he owned it, sitting alone at a piano in the middle of the night. It didn't fit with everything else she knew about him, but maybe that was the point. What about you? Adrian asked. What do you do when you can't sleep? Read. Usually mystery novels, the kind where everything gets solved in the end. Life's not that neat. I know. That's why I like them. They talked about books, then movies, then the best pizza place in the city, which they disagreed on completely. Normal things. The kind of conversation you'd have on any first date. Except this wasn't a first date. Or maybe it was. Lena couldn't tell anymore. Her phone buzzed. Maya. Where are you? You said you'd be home an hour ago. Lena checked the time and swore softly. I have to go. I told my friend I'd be back. The one who doesn't trust me? That's the one. Adrian stood when she did. Can I drive you? I should probably take the bus. If she sees me getting out of your car, she'll kill me. Fair enough. He walked her to the door. Outside, the street was busy with evening traffic. When can I see you again? The question made her stomach flip. I don't know. This week is crazy with midterms. Next weekend, then. It wasn't really a question, but Lena nodded anyway. Next weekend. He waited with her until the bus came. Didn't try to kiss her goodbye, didn't even touch her, except for a brief brush of fingers that might have been accidental. But the way he looked at her before the bus doors closed made her knees weak. Maya was waiting in Lena's apartment when she got home. She'd used the spare key Lena had given her years ago and was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed. 3 hours, she said. You were gone for 3 hours. We were just talking. Maya's voice was flat. With Adrian Vale. For 3 hours. Lena dropped her bag on the counter and went to the kitchen. She needed water, or wine, maybe both. He wanted to explain things, about his life, what getting involved with him would mean. And what does it mean? That it's complicated, that there are risks, that I should probably walk away. Lena poured herself a glass of water and drank half of it. But I'm not going to. The silence that followed was heavy. Lena. Maya's voice was careful, controlled. I love you. You know that, right? I know. So when I tell you this is a mistake, I need you to understand I'm not being dramatic. I'm not jealous. I'm genuinely worried about you. Lena turned around. Maya was still on the couch, but her arms had dropped to her sides. She looked tired. He was honest with me, Lena said, about everything, about his family, about the danger, about the woman who got hurt before. He didn't hide any of it. And you think that makes it better? I think it makes him different than Ethan. That's a pretty low bar. Maybe. But it's something. Lena sat down beside her friend. Look, I'm not stupid. I know this could end badly, but for once in my life, I want to choose something that feels right instead of something that looks safe on paper. Maya closed her eyes. You really like him. I barely know him. That's not what I asked. Lena thought about Adrian's hand over hers, the way he'd looked when he talked about playing piano, the absolute certainty in his voice when he'd promised to keep her safe. Yeah, she admitted, I really like him. Then I guess we're doing this. Maya opened her eyes. But I'm setting some ground rules. You can't set ground rules for my relationship. Watch me. Rule 1. You tell me where you are every time you're with him. I don't care if it's annoying. I want to know. Maya, Rule 2. If anything feels wrong, even a little bit wrong, you tell me immediately. I don't care what time it is. Okay, but Rule 3. I get to meet him, properly. Not in a crisis. I want to look him in the eye and decide for myself if he's worth all this. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to say she didn't need protection or oversight or someone checking in on her like she was a teenager sneaking out. But Maya's eyes were bright with unshed tears. And Lena realized this wasn't about control. It was about fear. About loving someone enough to watch them make a potentially terrible decision and trying to keep them safe anyway. Okay, she said quietly. Those are fair rules. Maya pulled her into a hug. They sat there for a while, not talking, just being present. Eventually, Maya pulled back and wiped her eyes. I need to go home, but I'm serious about meeting him. I know. I'll arrange it. After Maya left, Lena tried to study. She had a constitutional law exam on Wednesday and a paper due Friday. Normal college stress that suddenly felt trivial compared to everything else happening. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, thank you for today, for listening, for not running. Thank you for being honest. When's your exam? Wednesday. 2 p.m. Why? Just wanted to know when I could distract you. She smiled despite herself. Not until Wednesday night at the earliest. I'll wait. The next few days fell into a strange rhythm. Lena went to classes, studied, tried to act normal. Adrian texted occasionally. Never intrusive, never demanding, just small check-ins that made her smile. Maya called every night to make sure she was okay. And Ethan, for the first time since that disastrous dinner, was completely silent. The silence should have been reassuring. Instead, it made Lena nervous. The cease and desist probably scared him off, Maya said on Tuesday night. That's good news. Or he's planning something. You've been watching too many crime shows. But Wednesday afternoon, after her exam, Lena walked out of the lecture hall and found Ethan waiting by the exit. Her blood went cold. He looked the same. Same khakis, same button-down shirt, same smile that didn't reach his eyes. But there was something different about him now, something harder. Lena. He pushed off from the wall. We need to talk. She pulled out her phone. Adrian's number was already pulled up, her thumb hovering over the call button. Don't, Ethan said, noticing the movement. I'm not here to cause problems. I just want 5 minutes. You violated the cease and desist. I'm standing in a public place. That's not a violation. He took a step closer. Students streamed past them, oblivious. 5 minutes, please. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But they were on campus, in broad daylight, surrounded by people. He couldn't do anything here. 3 minutes, she said. And if you try anything, I'm calling security. Fair enough. He gestured to a bench near the building. Can we sit? They sat. Lena kept her phone in her hand, call button ready. Ethan was quiet for a moment, staring at the ground. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer. I scared you. At dinner. I know I did. He looked at her. I'm sorry. Lena didn't say anything. I have a temper. I'm working on it. Seeing a therapist, actually. He pulled out his phone and showed her what looked like therapy appointment reminders. I know that doesn't fix what happened, but I want you to know I'm trying. Why are you telling me this? Because I liked you. I still like you. And I think if we could just start over, do things right this time. No. The word came out harder than she'd intended. Ethan's jaw tightened. You won't even give me a chance. You grabbed me. Twice. Followed me. Harassed me with calls and texts from multiple numbers. Lena stood up. I don't owe you a second chance. Because of him. Ethan's voice turned bitter. That guy from the restaurant. What did he tell you about me? Nothing I didn't already know from experience. He had no right to interfere. We were on a date, a private date. A date I wanted to leave. He helped me do that. Ethan stood too. They were the same height, but somehow he seemed bigger, angrier. Who is he? Your boyfriend? Someone you were already seeing? That's none of your business. It is my business. You led me on, made me think we had something. Then you humiliated me in front of everyone because some rich asshole showed up. Lena's hand tightened on her phone. This conversation is over. It's over when I say it's over. He grabbed her wrist. The same place he'd grabbed it at dinner. The same pressure. Lena's vision narrowed. Around them, students kept walking, kept talking. Nobody noticed. Let go, she said quietly. Not until you listen to me. Let go or I scream. Something flickered in his eyes, recognition that she meant it. His grip loosened, but before he could fully release her, someone else's hand clamped down on Ethan's shoulder. She told you to let go. Lena's heart jumped. She knew that voice. Adrian stood behind Ethan, his face completely calm, but there was something in his eyes that made Ethan go pale. This doesn't concern you, Ethan said, but his voice shook. Everything concerning her concerns me. Adrian's voice was quiet, conversational. Now step back. We're just talking. No, you're leaving, right now. Ethan looked at Lena, then at Adrian, then at the security camera mounted on the building behind them. Calculation crossed his face. You can't threaten me on camera, he said to Adrian. I'm not threatening you. I'm giving you advice. Adrian's smile was cold. Walk away while you still can. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Ethan wrenched his shoulder free and stepped back. This isn't over, he said to Lena. Yes, Adrian said softly. It is. Something in his tone made Ethan flinch. He looked at Lena one more time, then turned and walked away, his stride too fast to be casual. Lena's legs gave out. Adrian caught her before she hit the ground, his arm solid around her waist. I've got you, he murmured. You're okay. She wasn't okay. She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Adrian guided her to the bench, sat down beside her, kept his arm around her shoulders. How did you know? She managed. I've had someone watching campus, just in case. He said it matter-of-factly, like having surveillance on her school was completely normal. They called when they saw him waiting outside your exam. You've been watching me. I've been keeping you safe. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Marcus, we need to file an official report. Ethan Cole violated the cease and desist, physical contact, verbal threats. Campus security cameras should have footage. He listened. Good. I want it filed within the hour. He hung up and looked at Lena, really looked at her. This is what I meant, he said quietly. About my world, about what it means to be with me. I have enemies, resources. I can make problems disappear, but it also means you'll never have real privacy, never have a moment where someone isn't watching. You should have told me you were having me followed. Would you have agreed to it? No. That's why I didn't ask. He didn't look apologetic. I won't apologize for keeping you safe, but I will understand if this is too much. Lena thought about Ethan's hand on her wrist. The look in his eyes when he'd said this isn't over. The fact that without Adrian's surveillance, she would have been alone with him. I should be angry, she said. You should be. I should tell you to back off, that I can handle this myself. You could handle it, eventually, through restraining orders and police reports and hoping he gives up. Adrian's voice was gentle. But you shouldn't have to. She looked at him, at his calm expression and careful distance and the way he'd positioned himself between her and the direction Ethan had walked. My friend wants to meet you. Adrian blinked. What? Maya. She set ground rules. One of them was meeting you properly, so you can come to dinner, Friday night, my apartment. You're inviting me to meet your protective best friend who already thinks I'm dangerous. Yes. That's either very brave or very stupid.
Probably both. Lena managed a shaky smile. But if we're actually doing this, she needs to know you're not going to get me killed.
I'm not going to get you killed.
Prove it to her.
Adrian studied her face for a long moment. Okay. Friday. What should I bring? Wine and patience. She's going to grill you. I've survived worse. He drove her home even though she protested. Made sure she got inside safely, waited until she texted him that all the locks were engaged before he left. Lena stood in her apartment, still shaking slightly, and called Maya. He was there, she said when Maya picked up. Ethan, waiting outside my exam. I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm already in my car.
Maya showed up 20 minutes later with ice cream and fury. She listened to everything, her expression getting darker with each detail. I'm calling the police, she said when Lena finished. Adrian's lawyer is already filing a report. They have it on camera. I don't care. I want it on record from you too. Maya was already dialing. This is escalating, Lena. He's not going to stop. I know.
They filed another report. Campus security pulled the footage. By the time it was done, Lena was exhausted. Adrian's coming to dinner Friday, she said, while they ate ice cream straight from the container. Maya's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. He's what? You said you wanted to meet him, so I invited him. I meant eventually, not this week. Why wait? Lena dug into the rocky road. You're going to judge him anyway. Might as well get it over with. I'm not going to judge him. I'm going to determine if he's worth the risk you're taking. That's the same thing. It's really not. They argued about it half-heartedly while they finished the ice cream. Eventually Maya left, making Lena promise to call if anything else happened. Lena tried to study for her paper but gave up after 20 minutes. Her mind kept replaying the scene with Ethan, the way he'd grabbed her, the therapy appointments that might have been real or might have been staged, the look in his eyes that said this wasn't over regardless of what Adrian thought. Her phone buzzed. Adrian again. How are you doing? Been better. Been worse. That's honest, at least. Maya's freaking out about Friday. Should I be worried? Probably. She's very protective. Good. You should have people who protect you. Lena smiled despite everything. You're one of those people now. I am. Why? A long pause. Then, because when someone asks me for help, I don't walk away. And because you looked at me that first night like you knew I was dangerous and chose to trust me anyway. Nobody's ever done that before. Maybe they should have. Maybe. But I'm glad you did. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand and dreamed of piano music and dark eyes and hands that held on tight enough to keep her safe. Friday came too quickly. Lena spent the morning cleaning her apartment and the afternoon cooking. She wasn't a great cook, but she could manage pasta and salad without poisoning anyone. Maya showed up early to help. Or to interrogate her. Possibly both. What do you know about him? Maya asked, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. Enough. That's not an answer. I know his family's involved in things that aren't exactly legal. I know he has resources and connections. I know he plays piano when he can't sleep. Lena stirred the sauce. I know he showed up when I needed help and hasn't asked for anything in return. Yet. Yet, Lena agreed. But until he does, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's how people get hurt. That's also how people fall in love. Maya's knife stilled. Love? Lena, you've known him for a week. I know, it's stupid. It's terrifying. That too. Adrian arrived exactly on time with a bottle of wine that probably cost more than Lena's textbooks. He'd dressed down, jeans and a simple black sweater, but somehow still looked like he'd walked out of a magazine. Maya sized him up immediately. You're taller in person. You're more intimidating, Adrian replied smoothly. Lena said you were protective. She undersold it. Damn right I'm protective. Someone has to be. They stared at each other. Lena held her breath. Then Maya stepped back. Come in. Dinner's almost ready. They ate at Lena's small kitchen table that barely fit 3 people. The conversation was awkward at first, full of careful politeness and loaded silences. But halfway through the meal, Maya set down her fork. Tell me why I should trust you with my best friend's safety. Adrian didn't hesitate. You shouldn't. Maya blinked. What? You shouldn't trust me. You don't know me. You know what I've told you, which is carefully curated to make me seem like less of a threat than I am. He met her eyes. But what you should trust is that I will do everything in my power to keep Lena safe. Not because it benefits me, not because I expect something in return, but because when someone trusts me with something that matters, I don't break that trust. Pretty words. They're true words. Prove it. Adrian pulled out his phone and brought up a document. This is a restraining order against Ethan Cole, signed by a judge this morning. He comes within 500 feet of Lena, he goes to jail. Maya took the phone and read it. Her eyes widened. How did you get this processed so fast? These things usually take weeks. I know people. That's not comforting. It's honest. Adrian took his phone back. I also have security watching her building, her campus, and the routes she takes regularly. She doesn't know about all of it, and she'd probably be angry if she did, but I'm not risking her safety to make her feel independent. Lena's stomach dropped. All of it? He looked at her. I told you. My world means giving up privacy. I meant that. You didn't tell me you were watching everywhere. Would you have let me? That's not the point. It's exactly the point. His voice was calm but firm. Ethan is obsessed with you. Men like that don't stop because of legal documents. They escalate until someone stops them. I'm making sure that if he tries anything, someone is there to intervene before it becomes a tragedy. Maya was watching them both. He's right, you know. Lena turned to her. You're taking his side? I'm taking the side of keeping you alive. Maya's expression was serious. I hate that he didn't ask permission, but I'm glad he's doing it. This is crazy. Both of you are crazy. Maybe, Adrian said, but you're safe. That's what matters. The rest of dinner was tense. They finished eating mostly in silence. When Maya finally left, she hugged Lena tight. I still think this is dangerous, she whispered, but I believe he'll protect you. That's something. After she left, Lena and Adrian cleaned up the dishes. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken things. You're angry, Adrian said finally. I'm conflicted. Fair enough. She turned to face him. I meant what I said, about doing this, about seeing where this goes. But I need you to understand something. What? I'm not helpless. I'm not some damsel who needs saving. I survived 24 years before you showed up, and I can keep surviving without you. I know that. Then stop treating me like I'm fragile. Adrian set down the dish he was drying and looked at her. Really looked at her. You're not fragile. You're the strongest person I've met in a long time. His voice was quiet. But strong people can still get hurt. And I've seen what happens when people I care about get caught up in my world. I won't let that happen to you. You might not have a choice. Then I'll deal with the consequences, but I'm not backing off. They stood there in her small kitchen, two stubborn people who barely knew each other, both refusing to bend. Finally, Lena sighed. Stay the night. Adrian went very still. Lena, not like that. I just don't want to be alone tonight. She felt exposed, saying it, vulnerable. Please. He nodded slowly. Okay. They finished the dishes. Lena gave him an extra pillow and blanket for the couch. But when she lay in bed and heard him moving around her living room, the space between them felt like a gulf. She got up, stood in her doorway. Adrian? He looked up from the couch where he'd been setting up his makeshift bed. Yeah? Thank you. For today. For the restraining order. For everything. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I wanted to anyway. She went back to bed. Lay there listening to the sounds of him settling in. And for the first time since that awful dinner with Ethan, she felt safe enough to actually sleep. Lena woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving around her kitchen. For a disorienting second, she forgot where she was, forgot everything that had happened. Then it all came rushing back. Adrian had spent the night on her couch. She pulled on a sweatshirt over her pajamas and padded out to the living room. Adrian was standing at her coffee maker, already dressed, his hair still damp from a shower. He must have woken up early. Morning? He said, without turning around. Hope you don't mind. I made coffee. It's fine. Her voice came out rough with sleep. You didn't have to. I was up anyway. He poured 2 cups and handed her one. I'm not great at sleeping in unfamiliar places. They stood in her small kitchen, drinking coffee in comfortable silence. The morning light made everything look softer, less intense than the night before. I should go, Adrian said finally. Let you have your Saturday. Lena wanted to ask him to stay, wanted to spend the day doing normal things, proving to herself that this could work. But the words stuck in her throat. "Okay," she said instead. He set down his cup and looked at her. "Are we okay? After last night?" "I don't know yet. Ask me later." "Fair enough." He grabbed his jacket from where he'd draped it over a chair. "I'll call you." After he left, the apartment felt too quiet. Lena tried to study but couldn't focus. Tried to clean but gave up after 10 minutes. Finally, she called Maya. "He stayed over." Maya's voice was sharp with concern. "On the couch. Nothing happened." "And this morning?" "He made coffee and left." Lena curled up in the chair Adrian had slept near. "Maya, I think I'm in over my head." "You think?" "I'm serious. Last night at dinner, when you two were talking, I realized I don't actually know him. Not really, I know pieces, but there's so much he's not telling me." "So ask him." "What if I don't like the answers?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "Then you walk away." "That's always an option, Lena, no matter how far in you get." But was it? Lena thought about the security watching her building, the restraining order that had appeared overnight, the way Adrian had looked at Ethan with such cold certainty. She'd stepped into his world, and she was starting to realize that world had different rules than the one she'd known before. The weekend passed slowly. Adrian texted occasionally, but didn't push to see her. Lena studied, went to the library, had lunch with Maya, who spent the entire time trying not to ask questions about Adrian and failing spectacularly. Monday morning, Lena's phone rang while she was getting ready for class. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Miss Carter?" A woman's voice. Professional, unfamiliar. "This is Detective Sarah Chen with the City Police Department. Do you have a moment?" Lena's heart started racing. "Is this about Ethan Cole?" "It is. I'm calling to inform you that Mr. Cole was arrested last night for violating a restraining order." "What? How?" "He was found outside your building around 11 p.m. Security cameras caught him trying to access the lobby. He was taken into custody without incident." The detective's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "He's being held pending a hearing. I wanted to let you know so you wouldn't be caught off guard." Lena sat down heavily on her bed. "Is he going to get out?" "That depends on the judge. But given his pattern of behavior and the clear violation, I'd expect bail to be set fairly high." A pause. "Miss Carter, I also wanted to ask if you'd noticed anyone else watching your building. The security footage shows someone else was there. Someone who confronted Mr. Cole before calling the police." "Adrian, it had to be." "I don't know anything about that," Lena said carefully. "Are you sure? Because the individual in question seemed to know exactly who Mr. Cole was and why he shouldn't be there." "Maybe it was building security." "Maybe." The detective didn't sound convinced. "If you think of anything, please call me. I'm leaving my number with your voicemail." After she hung up, Lena immediately called Adrian. "Good morning," he answered on the first ring. "You were there last night, outside my building." A pause. "Yes." The detective said someone confronted Ethan before calling the police. "That was you." "Yes." "Adrian, what did you do?" "I made sure he understood that if he came back, he wouldn't walk away next time." His voice was steady, unapologetic. "Then I called the police and waited until they arrived." "You can't just—" Lena stopped, took a breath. What if he'd done something? What if it had gotten violent? It wouldn't have. He's a coward who picks on women he thinks he can control. The second he realized I was there, he tried to run. You don't know that. I do. I've dealt with men like him my entire life. Adrian's tone softened slightly. Lena, I know you're angry, but he violated a restraining order to stand outside your building at 11 at night. What do you think he was planning to do? She didn't want to think about it. Didn't want to imagine Ethan waiting in the dark, watching her windows, planning whatever came next. The detective asked about you, she said. I know. She called me too. What did you tell her? The truth. That I was in the neighborhood and saw someone loitering. Called it in as a suspicious person. He paused. She doesn't need to know about us. Not yet. Why not? Because the less connection there is between you and me and official records, the safer you are. Safe from what? From my world bleeding into yours more than it already has. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to say it was too late for that, but he was probably right. I have to go to class, she said instead. Okay, will you call me later? Maybe. She went to class, sat through lectures without absorbing anything, had lunch with some classmates who asked if she was okay because she looked tired. Tuesday brought more news. Ethan's bail had been set at $50,000. His lawyer was arguing it was excessive for a first-time offense. First time that got caught, Maya said when Lena told her. How much you want to bet there are other women with similar stories? Lena had been thinking the same thing. That night, she finally called Adrian back. Hey, he said. Just that one word, but she could hear the relief in it. Tell me about your family. What? Your family. You said your father built an empire. I want to know what that means, all of it. Not the edited version. Adrian was quiet for so long she thought he might have hung up. Then he sighed. Can we do this in person? When? Tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 7. He took her to his apartment. Lena had expected something ostentatious. Penthouse views and modern art, and everything designed to impress. Instead, it was understated. Elegant, but comfortable. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, but the furniture looked lived in. Books lined the shelves, and in the corner a black grand piano sat waiting. You actually have a piano, Lena said. I told you I play. Adrian shrugged out of his jacket and hung it up. Wine? Or something stronger? Whatever you're having. He poured them both whiskey. They sat on the couch that faced the windows, the city lights spreading out below them like scattered stars. My father came here with nothing, Adrian said after a moment. Literally nothing. Couldn't speak English. Had no connections. Started working construction, saved every penny. He swirled his glass. By the time I was born, he owned 3 companies, all legitimate, but he'd made connections with people who weren't. What kind of people? The kind who could make problems disappear. The kind who could open doors that should have stayed closed. Adrian's expression was distant. He told himself it was temporary, that once he was established, he'd cut ties, but you can't just walk away from people like that. They own pieces of you. And you inherited those pieces. I inherited everything, the businesses, the debts, the obligations. He looked at her. I was 23 when he died. Suddenly I was responsible for an empire I barely understood, surrounded by people who wanted to use me or destroy me or both. You could have sold it, started over. With what? My father's businesses were legitimate on paper, but half the value came from relationships with people who don't accept buyouts. He set down his glass. I tried. For the first year, I tried to go straight, cut ties with anyone questionable. It nearly bankrupted us. And the people my father owed favors to, they didn't appreciate being cut out. What happened? They made it clear I had 2 choices. Work with them or lose everything, including the legitimate businesses and the hundreds of people who depended on them for their livelihoods. His voice was flat. So I made a deal. I'd honor my father's commitments, maintain the relationships, but on my terms. No drugs, no human trafficking. Nothing that involved hurting innocents. And they agreed? They didn't have much choice. I had information my father had collected over the years. Insurance, he called it. Enough to bring down some very powerful people if it ever went public. Adrian smiled without humor. Mutually assured destruction. It's kept the peace for 8 years. Lena processed this. So what do you actually do? Mostly? I launder money. Not directly. I'm not that stupid. But I own businesses that can absorb cash from less legitimate sources. Restaurants, real estate, shipping companies. He said it like he was describing his morning routine. I also provide introductions. Someone needs a politician in their pocket. I know who to call. Someone needs a problem solved quietly. I know people who handle that. You're a fixer. I'm a middleman. There's a difference. Is there? I don't pull the trigger. I don't make the decisions. I just connect people who need things with people who can provide them. He looked at her. Does that make it better or worse? I don't know. They sat in silence. Lena stared out at the city and tried to reconcile the man beside her with what he'd just described. He didn't look like a criminal, didn't act like one, but that was probably the point. Why are you telling me this? She asked finally. Because you asked, and because if we're doing this, really doing this, you need to know what you're getting into. He shifted to face her. I'll never lie to you, Lena. I might not tell you everything, but what I do tell you will be true. What about the woman you mentioned before? The one who got hurt? Adrian's expression shuddered. Her name was Claire. We dated for 6 months. I kept her separate from my work, thought I was protecting her. He picked up his glass again, stared into it. Someone wanted to send me a message, used her to do it. What happened? They took her, kept her for 3 days. When I finally got her back, she was... He stopped, started again. She was alive. That's what mattered, but she was never the same. Did you find who did it? Yes. And they regretted it. His voice was cold, final. The kind of tone that said the subject was closed. Lena should have been horrified, should have been getting up and walking out. Instead, she found herself asking, do you regret it? What you did to them? No. I regret not protecting her better. But what I did after? He looked at her. No. Some people deserve what they get. She thought about Ethan, about the way he'd grabbed her wrist, the threats, the violation of the restraining order. What would you have done if the police hadn't arrested him? She asked quietly. Do you really want to know? Yes. Adrian set down his glass and turned to face her fully. I would have made it very clear that if he came near you again, he wouldn't just lose his freedom. He'd lose everything, his job, his home, his reputation, every single thing that makes him feel powerful. His eyes were dark, intent. And if that didn't work, I'd make sure he couldn't physically come near you, one way or another. You'd hurt him. If I had to. No hesitation, no apology. Lena knew she should be scared, should be running. Everything about this was wrong, but all she felt was safe. I should go, she said. Adrian nodded. I'll drive you. I can take a cab. Lena. He waited until she looked at him. I just told you things that could destroy me, things that could send me to prison if you decided to go to the police. The least you can do is let me drive you home. She hadn't thought about that he'd trusted her with information that made him vulnerable. Okay, she said quietly. They didn't talk much on the drive. Adrian kept his eyes on the road, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the center console. Lena found herself wanting to reach out and take it, touch him, prove to herself he was real and not some dangerous fantasy she'd constructed. When they pulled up to her building, Adrian put the car in park but didn't turn it off. I know this is a lot, he said. I know I'm asking you to accept things that go against everything you probably believe in. You're not asking me to accept anything, you're just telling me the truth. And what are you going to do with it? Lena looked at him, at his careful expression and guarded eyes and the tension in his shoulders that suggested he was bracing for her to walk away. I don't know yet, she admitted. Can I have some time to think? Take all the time you need. She got out of the car, walked to her building, turned back once and saw him still sitting there, watching to make sure she got inside safely. Maya came over the next night with wine and Thai food and determination. Spill, she said the moment she was through the door. You've been weird for 2 days. What happened? Lena told her. Not everything. She couldn't betray Adrian's trust that completely. But enough. The money laundering, the connections to dangerous people, the fact that he'd admitted he'd hurt people who'd crossed him. Maya listened without interrupting. When Lena finished, she poured them both more wine. So he's exactly what I thought he was, Maya said. Yeah. And you're still into him? Yeah. Lena. Maya set down her glass. I love you. You know that. But this is insane. You're talking about dating someone who launders money for criminals. I know. Someone who's admitted to hurting people. I know. Someone who lives in a world where getting kidnapped and tortured is an actual possibility. I know. Lena's voice cracked. I know it's crazy. I know I should run as far away as possible. But Maya, when I'm with him, I feel safer than I've ever felt. And I know that doesn't make sense, but it's true. Maya was quiet for a long moment. You're in love with him. I barely know him. That's not what I asked. Lena thought about Adrian playing piano, about the way he'd looked at her when he'd told her the truth, about the fact that he'd given her the power to destroy him and trusted her not to use it. I think I could be, she admitted, if I let myself. Then I'm going to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. Maya leaned forward. If you do this,
If you really commit to this, you can't do it halfway. You can't be with someone like Adrian and keep one foot out the door. It'll get you killed. That's comforting. I'm serious. His enemies will see you as a weakness, a way to get to him. The only thing that'll keep you safe is if they believe he'd burn the world down for you. Maya's expression was fierce. So if you're in, you're all in. Otherwise, walk away now. Lena knew she was right, had known it from the moment Adrian had shown up at that restaurant. This wasn't the kind of thing you could test drive. It was all or nothing. I need to talk to him, she said.
She called Adrian from her bedroom while Maya stress-ate pad thai in the living room. Hey, he answered. Is everything okay? Can you come over? When? Now, if you're not busy. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He made it in 15. Lena buzzed him up, her heart hammering. Maya gave her a long look when the knock came. You sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Maya hugged her tight. Call me later, or tomorrow, whenever.
She left through the door just as Adrian came in. They exchanged a brief nod that might have been respect or acknowledgement, or both. Then it was just Lena and Adrian in her small apartment that suddenly felt even smaller. You wanted to talk, he said. I've been thinking about what you told me, about your life, your world. And I'm terrified. Everything about this scares me. She forced herself to keep going, but walking away scares me more. Adrian went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm in, all the way in, whatever that means. The words came faster now. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't lie to me. Even if you think the truth will hurt. Even if you think I can't handle it. I need to know what I'm dealing with. I can do that. And if this gets too dangerous, if being with you puts me in actual danger, you'll tell me. You won't just make decisions for me. Adrian crossed the space between them, took her hands in his. I can't promise the second one, he said quietly. If keeping you safe means making a choice you'd hate me for, I'll make it anyway. That's who I am. Adrian, but, he continued, I promise to be honest about the danger, about the risks, and I promise that any decision I make will be because I'd rather have you alive and hating me than dead and in love with me. It wasn't what she'd wanted to hear, but it was honest, and that was worth something. Okay, she said, then we're doing this. He pulled her close, kissed her for the first time, and it wasn't soft or sweet or any of the things first kisses were supposed to be. It was desperate and claiming and full of all the things they couldn't say out loud. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I should tell you something else, Adrian said, his forehead resting against hers. What? My family wants to meet you. Lena pulled back. Your family? Why? Because I told them about you. And because in my world, if you're serious about someone, you introduce them. It's a sign of respect. When? This weekend, Sunday dinner. He must have seen the panic on her face because he added, It's not as bad as it sounds. Just my mother and my sister. My father's gone, and my brother lives overseas. Just your mother and sister, the ones who probably know everything about your business. My mother knows some. My sister knows more than I'd like. He smiled slightly. But they'll love you, trust me. That's a lot to ask after 2 weeks. I know, but I'm asking anyway. Lena thought about everything Maya had said, about being all in or walking away, about the fact that Adrian's world had different rules. Okay, she said, Sunday dinner, but you owe me. Name it. Teach me to play piano. One song, something simple. Adrian looked surprised. Why? Because you said it's the only time nobody asks you about business. I want to see that part of you. Something in his expression softened. Deal. He stayed that night. In her bed this time, though they didn't do more than kiss and talk and exist in the same space. Lena fell asleep with her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, and felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, with no idea if she was about to fly or fall. Saturday, Adrian took her shopping for dinner with his family. You don't need to buy me clothes, Lena protested as he pulled up to a boutique that looked intimidatingly expensive. I'm not buying you clothes. I'm making sure you have armor. It's dinner, not a battle. In my family, dinner is a battle, just a civilized one. He came around and opened her door. Trust me on this.
The boutique owner knew Adrian by name. She took one look at Lena and started pulling dresses like she'd been given a mission. 2 hours later, Lena emerged with a dress that cost more than her monthly rent. It was simple but elegant, the kind of thing that looked effortless but probably took a designer months to perfect. "You didn't have to do this," she said for the 10th time. "I wanted to." Adrian was carrying the garment bag. "Besides, you'll need more than one outfit. My mother's going to want to see you again." "Confident, aren't you?" "Realistic. Once she meets you, she'll adopt you. That's how she works." Sunday came too fast. Lena spent the morning with Maya, who helped her with her hair and makeup and tried not to look worried. "Remember," Maya said as she applied the final touches, "you don't have to impress them. You just have to survive them." "That's not helping." "Sorry." "Okay, new advice. Be yourself. If they don't like the real you, then they're not worth impressing anyway."
Adrian picked her up at 5. He looked different in a full suit, his hair styled, every inch the powerful businessman, but his eyes were the same when he looked at her. "You look beautiful," he said. "I look terrified." "That too." He smiled. "Come on, we'll be late." His mother's house was in an older part of the city where money had lived for generations. Old trees lined the street. The houses sat back from the road behind iron gates. Adrian's childhood home was a mansion. There was no other word for it. 3 stories of stone and glass that managed to look both imposing and welcoming. "You grew up here?" Lena asked as they pulled up the circular driveway. "I did. Hated it mostly. Too big, too quiet." He parked and came around to open her door. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Neither am I."
The front door opened before they reached it. A woman in her late 50s stood framed in the entrance, elegant and sharp-eyed. She looked like an older version of Adrian, same dark hair threaded with silver, same intense gaze. "Mom," Adrian said, "this is Lena Carter. Lena, my mother, Elena Vale." Elena's eyes swept over Lena in one assessing glance. Then she smiled, and her whole face transformed. "Finally," she said, pulling Lena into a hug that was surprisingly warm. "He never brings anyone home. I was starting to worry." "Mom," "Hush, Adrian. Let me embarrass you." She pulled back and looked at Lena properly. Come in. Sophia's already here and dying to meet you." The inside of the house was as impressive as the outside. High ceilings, original artwork, furniture that looked antique and priceless. But there were also photos everywhere. Adrian as a child, serious even then. Adrian with a younger girl who must be his sister, a family portrait from years ago. A woman in her early 30s appeared from what Lena assumed was the kitchen. She had Adrian's eyes but softer features, and she moved with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was. "Sophia," Adrian said. "My sister, Lena." Sophia's handshake was firm. "So you're the one who's got my brother acting like a human being. I like you already." "Dinner's almost ready," Elena said. "Adrian, help me in the kitchen. Sophia, entertain our guest." Before Lena could protest, Adrian was being dragged away. She found herself alone with his sister in a living room that probably cost more than she'd make in a lifetime. "Don't look so terrified," Sophia said, pouring them both wine from a crystal decanter. "We don't bite. Much." "That's not reassuring." "It's not meant to be." Sophia handed her a glass and sat down. "So, you sent an SOS text to my brother by mistake and he rode to your rescue. That about sum it up?" "More or less. And now you're dating a man who runs a semi-legal business empire and has more enemies than friends." Sophia's expression was unreadable. "Either you're very brave or very stupid." "Probably both." That got a laugh. "Good answer. My brother needs someone who'll call him on his bullshit." She took a sip of her wine. "Fair warning, though. This life, it's not easy. People will judge you. They'll assume you're with him for money or status or protection." "Are you trying to scare me off?" "I'm trying to prepare you." Sophia's voice gentled. "Adrian doesn't let people in. Ever. The fact that he brought you here means you matter. Which means the people who want to hurt him will try to use you to do it. He told me about Claire. Did he tell you what he did to the people who took her?" Lena shook her head. Sophia's smile was cold. "Let's just say they're no longer a problem. For anyone. Ever." She leaned forward. "My brother is a lot of things. But when he loves someone, he's loyal to the point of destruction. Yours and his. Remember that. Before Lena could respond, Elena called them to dinner. The dining room was as elegant as the rest of the house. The table was set with china that looked like it belonged in a museum. But the food was simple. Pasta, salad, bread that smelled fresh from the oven. I'm not a fancy cook, Elena said as they sat down, despite what the house might suggest. It smells amazing, Lena said honestly. Dinner conversation flowed easily. Elena asked about Lena's studies, her family, her plans after graduation. Nothing about Adrian's business or how they'd met or anything controversial, just normal getting to know you questions. But Lena could feel the weight of assessment underneath. This wasn't just dinner. It was a test. Halfway through the meal, Sophia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her expression changed. Adrian, she said quietly, we have a problem. His face went blank. The same expression Lena had seen when he dealt with Ethan. What kind of problem? The kind that needs handling. Tonight. Elena set down her fork. How bad? Bad enough that it can't wait. Adrian looked at Lena. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the dinner, his family, the normalcy he'd been trying to give her. Go, she said before he could apologize. Whatever it is, handle it. Lena, I mean it. I'll be fine here. He stood slowly, kissed her forehead. I'll be back as soon as I can. Take Marcus, Elena said. And Adrian, be careful. He nodded and left with Sophia. The house felt emptier without them. Elena was quiet for a moment, then poured them both more wine. This is the life, she said simply. Interrupted dinners. Problems that can't wait. Secrets and danger, and never knowing if the people you love are going to come home. She met Lena's eyes. Are you prepared for that? I don't know. Probably not. Good. Honesty. I appreciate that. Elena took a sip of her wine. My husband, Adrian's father, he tried to keep me separate from the business. Thought he was protecting me. But you can't protect someone from something they're living in the middle of. All you can do is prepare them. Is that why you're telling me this? I'm telling you this because Adrian won't. He'll try to shield you from the worst of it. And in doing so, he'll make you vulnerable. Elena's voice was kind but firm. Knowledge is power. The more you understand about his world, the safer you'll be. They talked for another hour. Elena told her about the business, about the people Adrian worked with, about the signs to watch for. That meant trouble was coming. She didn't sugarcoat anything, didn't try to make it sound better than it was. By the time Adrian and Sophia returned, Lena's head was spinning with information. Adrian looked tired. There was tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. Everything okay? Lena asked. It will be. He helped her to her feet. Ready to go? In the car, he was quiet. Lena reached over and took his hand. Do you want to talk about it? Not really. Okay. He squeezed her hand. My mother likes you. How can you tell? She told me. Said you have spine. That's the highest compliment she gives. He glanced over at her. She also said she told you things I probably didn't want you to know yet. She did. About the business. About the risks. Are you scared? Terrified, but not running. Why not? Lena thought about it. About everything she'd learned tonight. About the life she was choosing to step into. Because you're worth it, she said finally. And because I'm tired of playing it safe. Adrian pulled the car over. Right there on the side of the road, he pulled over and kissed her like she was air, and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, his eyes were intense. I'm falling in love with you, he said. I know it's too soon. I know it's crazy, but I need you to know. Lena's heart was racing. Adrian, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to hear it. But she did want to say it back. Had wanted to say it for days now. So she did. I'm falling for you too. They sat there on the side of the road, two people who'd met by accident and were choosing each other on purpose. And Lena knew with absolute certainty that her life would never be the same. The weeks that followed felt like learning a new language. Lena studied for exams while also studying Adrian's world. She learned to read the tension in his shoulders when a phone call meant trouble, learned which associates were actually friends and which ones were just business. Learned that some nights he'd disappear for hours and come back with that cold look in his eyes that meant someone had crossed a line. She also learned that he made her coffee exactly how she liked it, that he'd clear his entire schedule if she needed him, that he kept his promises even when it cost him. Maya remained skeptical but supportive. She'd instituted a check-in system where Lena had to text every night by 11. If she didn't, Maya had permission to call the police. "I know you think I'm being paranoid," Maya said one afternoon while they studied together at the library.
"I don't think you're paranoid. I think you're being a good friend." "Then why do I feel like I'm watching you walk into traffic in slow motion?" Lena looked up from her constitutional law textbook. "Because maybe I am, but I'm doing it with my eyes open." "That doesn't make it better." "No, but it's my choice." Maya was quiet for a moment. "He's changed you. Is that a bad thing?" "I don't know yet." 3 weeks after dinner with Adrian's family, Lena got a call from Detective Chen.
"Miss Carter, I wanted to update you on Ethan Cole's case." Lena's stomach tightened. "Okay." "He's agreed to a plea deal. 6 months in county jail, 3 years probation, and a permanent restraining order. He's also required to complete anger management counseling." "That's it? 6 months? It's a first offense that got caught. The system isn't perfect." The detective paused. "But between you and me, I don't think he'll bother you again. Someone had a talk with him, made it very clear what would happen if he violated the terms. Someone. Someone who didn't leave their name, but was very convincing." Detective Chen's tone was carefully neutral. "I'm not saying I approve of vigilante justice, Miss Carter, but I'm also not going to look too hard at something that keeps you safe." After she hung up, Lena called Adrian. "You talked to Ethan," she said when he answered. "I made sure he understood the situation." The detective said someone made it very clear what would happen if he came near me again. That someone would be me. Adrian's voice was matter of fact. He needed to understand that the legal system was the gentle option, that if he forced my hand, I had other ways of handling things. "Did you threaten him?" I explained reality to him. What he chose to hear was up to him. Lena should have been angry, should have objected to Adrian taking matters into his own hands, but mostly she just felt relieved. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You don't have to thank me for keeping you safe. That's not negotiable." That night, Adrian took her to his apartment and finally taught her piano like he'd promised. He started with something simple, a melody that even she could follow. His hands covered hers, guiding her fingers to the right keys. "You're overthinking it," he said when she fumbled for the 3rd time. "I always overthink everything." "I've noticed." He kissed the back of her neck. "Stop trying to be perfect. Just feel the music." She tried, relaxed into it, and slowly, haltingly, the melody emerged. It wasn't beautiful, but it was real. When she finished, Adrian pulled her back against his chest. "See? You can do anything when you stop being afraid of messing up." "Is that your life philosophy?" "No, my life philosophy is that messing up is inevitable, so you might as well do it spectacularly." They made love that night for the first time. It wasn't smooth or perfect. Lena was nervous, and Adrian was too careful at first, treating her like she might break. But eventually they found their rhythm, and it felt like everything else between them. Intense and honest and completely right. Afterward, they lay tangled together in his bed, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling. "I never expected this," Adrian said into the darkness. "Expected what? You, us, any of it." His arm tightened around her. "I thought I'd spend my life alone. It seems safer that way. For everyone." "What changed?" "You sent a text to the wrong number." He laughed softly. "The odds of that message reaching me, specifically me, were astronomical. But it did, and I couldn't ignore it." "Do you believe in fate?" "I believe in choices, and I believe that night we both made the right one." November came with cold rain and the stress of final exams. Lena was drowning in papers and study sessions. Adrian gave her space but checked in constantly, brought her food when she forgot to eat, let her sleep at his place when her apartment felt too small. Maya noticed the changes. "You're different," she said one night when they were both cramming for their respective exams. Maya was in grad school now, working on her master's in social work. "Different how?" "Happier, but also more serious. Like you've seen things that changed you." Lena thought about the dinner with Adrian's family. About watching him handle business calls with a coldness that both frightened and fascinated her, about learning to exist in a world where danger was always one wrong move away. I have seen things, she admitted, but I'm still me. Are you? Because the Lena I knew 3 months ago would never date someone involved in organized crime. It's not organized crime, it's complicated business arrangements. Maya gave her a look. You're doing it again? Making excuses for him. I'm not making excuses. I'm acknowledging reality. Lena set down her highlighter. Yes, Adrian's involved in things that aren't strictly legal, but he's also the most honest person I've ever met. He doesn't lie to me, doesn't hide who he is, and he makes me feel safe in a way nobody ever has. Even though being with him puts you in danger, even though, Maya sighed, you're really in love with him. Yes. And nothing I say is going to change that. Probably not. Then I guess I need to accept it. Maya reached across the table and grabbed Lena's hand. But if he hurts you, I'm going to hurt him. I don't care how many bodyguards he has. Lena squeezed back. Deal. Finals week was brutal. Lena barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination. Adrian wanted to help, but there was nothing he could do except be there when she needed him. The night before her last exam, she had a panic attack. Just completely fell apart in his apartment, convinced she was going to fail everything and her entire future was ruined. Adrian held her through it, didn't try to fix it or tell her she was being irrational, just held her and let her break down. When she finally calmed down, he made her tea and sat with her on the couch. You know what I think? He said. What? I think you're so used to doing everything perfectly that you've forgotten how to be human. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You're allowed to struggle, allowed to be scared. It doesn't make you weak. Says the man who never shows fear. I show fear all the time, just not in ways people recognize. He was quiet for a moment. I'm terrified every day that something will happen to you because of me. That my world will reach out and hurt you, and I won't be able to stop it. That's different. Is it? We're both afraid of failing the people we love. We just express it differently. Lena leaned her head against his shoulder. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I've just made enough mistakes to recognize patterns. She aced her last exam. When she walked out of the lecture hall, Adrian was waiting outside with flowers and a smile that made her heart skip. How'd it go? I think I nailed it. Of course you did. He handed her the flowers. I'm proud of you. They celebrated that night with his family. Elena cooked again, and Sophia brought her girlfriend, a sharp-witted lawyer named Rachel, who immediately started grilling Lena about her plans after graduation. Law school, Lena said, assuming I get in. You'll get in, Sophia said confidently. Adrian said you're brilliant. Adrian's biased. Maybe, but he's also a good judge of character. After dinner, Elena pulled Lena aside while Adrian and Sophia were arguing about something in the other room. I want to show you something, Elena said, leading her upstairs to a room Lena hadn't seen before. It was an office, but the walls were covered with photographs. Adrian at every age, his father and old pictures that showed a younger, harder man. Sophia graduating from college. This is my memory room, Elena explained, where I come when I need to remember why we do what we do. She pointed to a photo of Adrian as a teenager, serious-faced and already carrying weight beyond his years. That's when his father died. He was 23. Overnight, he went from being a kid to running an empire. That must have been terrifying. It was, but he never complained, never asked for help. Elena's voice was sad. He thought he had to be strong all the time, like showing weakness would make everything fall apart. He still thinks that. I know, but you're changing that. Elena looked at her. I see the way he is with you. More relaxed, more human. That's a gift. I'm not trying to change him. I know. That's why it's working. Elena smiled. My son chose you for a reason. Because you see him. The real him. Not the empire or the money or the power. Just Adrian. Lena felt tears prick her eyes. I do see him, and I love what I see. Then hold on to that, because there will be days when his world tries to tear you apart. When people will judge you and threaten you and test you. You'll need to remember why you chose this. I will. Christmas approached. Lena went home to see her parents for a few days, and telling them about Adrian was harder than she'd expected. So he's in business, her father said carefully over dinner. Yes. What kind of business? Import-export, real estate, various ventures. The lies came easier now. She'd practiced them with Adrian. Her mother was more direct. Is he good to you? Very good. Then that's what matters. Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You look happy. Happier than I've seen you in years. I am happy. After dinner, her father pulled her aside. I did some research on Adrian Vale, he said quietly. Lena's stomach dropped. Dad, I'm not judging. I just wanted to know who my daughter was dating. He looked at her seriously. He's connected to some questionable people. You know that, right? I know. And you're okay with it? I am. Her father studied her face. You've always been smart, independent. I have to trust you're making the right choice. I am, Dad. I promise. She flew back to the city on Christmas Eve. Adrian picked her up from the airport, and the moment she saw him, everything else fell away. I missed you, she said, kissing him in the arrivals area while other travelers walked around them. 3 days? You were gone for 3 days. It felt like longer. He drove her back to his apartment where he'd put up a small Christmas tree. It was decorated simply, nothing extravagant, but it was clear he'd done it himself. You decorated, Lena said, touched. I wanted you to have Christmas morning somewhere that felt like home. This does feel like home. And it was true. His apartment felt more like home than anywhere else. They spent Christmas together, just the two of them. Exchanged gifts in the morning. Adrian gave her a delicate necklace with a single diamond pendant. It's beautiful, Lena breathed. It was my grandmother's. My mother wanted you to have it. Lena's throat tightened. Adrian, I can't. You can. You're family now. He fastened it around her neck. That's what this means. You're not just my girlfriend. You're part of us. Lena gave him a leather-bound journal. For your music, I thought you could write down the pieces you compose. I don't compose. You do. I've heard you playing things that aren't from sheet music, original things. She smiled. You're creative. You should document it. He looked at the journal for a long moment, then kissed her. Thank you. Nobody's ever encouraged that part of me before. Then they didn't really know you. The new year came. Lena got her acceptance letter from law school in February. She was in the library when she opened it, and she actually screamed. Adrian called within minutes. I heard screaming. Should I be worried? I got in. I got into law school. Of course you did. When do we celebrate? They went to the same restaurant where it had all started. Bellissimo. Where Lena had sent that desperate text to the wrong number and changed everything. Are you sure you want to eat here? Adrian asked as they walked in. This place has complicated memories. That's exactly why I want to eat here. I want to replace the bad memories with good ones. They were seated at a different table this time. Better view, better location. The waiter recognized Adrian and treated them like royalty. Halfway through dinner, Lena looked around the dining room. This is where it started, she said. 3 months ago, I was sitting here with a man who scared me. And now I'm here with a man who I love. 3 months, Adrian repeated. That's not very long. Long enough to know. Know what? That I want to do this. Build a life with you, whatever that looks like. Adrian set down his wine glass. Lena, there's something I need to tell you. Her heart skipped. Okay. I'm getting out. Out of what? The business, the questionable connections, all of it. He leaned forward. I've been working on it for weeks, transferring assets, severing ties, setting up legitimate operations that don't require relationships with dangerous people. Lena couldn't breathe. Why? Because I want to be someone you can be proud of. Someone who doesn't make you lie to your parents about what I do. His voice was intense. And because I'm tired. Tired of living in the shadows. Tired of always looking over my shoulder. I want a normal life with you. Adrian, you don't have to. I want to. I've been thinking about it since that first night, when you looked at me and chose to trust me even though you knew I was dangerous. He took her hand. You made me want to be better, so I'm trying. What about your family, your obligations? My mother supports it, says it's time for the next generation to find their own path, and Sophia's taking over the parts of the business that are legitimate, The rest were shutting down or selling off. That's dangerous. People who depended on those connections won't be happy. I know. That's why it's taking time. We're doing it carefully, making sure nobody feels betrayed or cut out. He squeezed her hand. But it's happening. By the time you start law school in the fall, I'll be completely clean. Lena felt tears sliding down her cheeks. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. Because of me. Because of us. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Lena's heart stopped. I know it's too soon, Adrian said. I know we've only been together for 3 months, but I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. So I'm asking you to think about it, to consider making this permanent when you're ready. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, perfect. I'm not asking you to marry me tonight, he continued. I'm asking you to know that I want to. When you're ready. When law school is done. When you feel certain. But I wanted you to have this, to know my intentions are serious. Lena looked at the ring, then at him, at this man who'd walked into her life by accident and chosen to stay on purpose, who'd protected her and challenged her and changed his entire world because she'd made him want to be better. What if I'm ready now, she heard herself say. Adrian went very still. What? What if I don't want to wait? What if I want to say yes right now? Lena, you need to think about this. I have thought about it. Every day for the past 3 months, I've thought about it. She took the box from his hands. I know it's crazy. I know it's fast. But I also know that I love you. And I know that I want to build a life with you. So yes. My answer is yes. For a moment, Adrian just stared at her. Then he stood up, pulled her to her feet, and kissed her in the middle of the restaurant while people around them started to notice and whisper. When they finally broke apart, the entire dining room was watching. She said yes, Adrian told no one in particular, and someone started clapping. The applause spread. Strangers who didn't know them but understood what they were witnessing. A moment of joy in a place that had held fear. Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They left the restaurant in a daze. In the car, Lena couldn't stop looking at her hand. This is insane, she said. Completely. My parents are going to think I've lost my mind. Probably. Maya's going to kill me. Definitely. Adrian pulled her close. But you said yes anyway. I did. Because you're worth the risk. Maya did nearly kill her. When Lena told her the next morning, her friend went through approximately 15 emotions in 30 seconds. You said yes, Maya repeated for the 5th time. I said yes. To marrying Adrian Vale. Yes. After 3 months. Yes. Maya sat down heavily on Lena's couch. Okay. I need a minute. Lena sat beside her. I know it's fast. Fast? Lena, it's supersonic. It's breaking the sound barrier of reasonable relationship progression. But Maya was smiling despite her words. But I also know you. You don't make decisions lightly. So if you're sure about this, really sure, then I'm happy for you. I'm sure. Then congratulations. Maya hugged her tight. But I'm still your maid of honor, and I'm still doing a background check on everyone in his family. I wouldn't expect anything less. They told Adrian's family that night. Elena cried and hugged them both. Sophia looked shocked, but pleased. Finally, Sophia said, someone to keep him in line. I've been keeping myself in line just fine, Adrian protested. No, you've been trying to keep yourself in line. There's a difference. Sophia raised her glass. To Lena, for making an honest man out of my brother. The next few months were a blur. Adrian worked on extricating himself from his complicated business arrangements. Lena finished her semester and prepared for law school. They found an apartment together, something that was theirs rather than his. There were complications. People who didn't want Adrian to leave the business, associates who felt betrayed. A few threats that had to be handled carefully. But through all of it, Lena and Adrian held on to each other. They fought sometimes, had moments where the stress got to be too much, but they always came back to the same place, the certainty that they were better together than apart. In June, Ethan was released from jail. Lena heard about it from Detective Chen. He's gone, the detective said, left the state. His probation was transferred to Colorado. He has family there. Do you think he'll come back?
No. Whatever Adrian said to him, it stuck. I've never seen someone so eager to leave town. Lena felt a weight lift off her shoulders that she hadn't realized she was carrying. That night, she and Adrian went back to Bellissimo for the third time. It was becoming their place, the location of their story's most important moments. 3 months until the wedding, Adrian said over dessert. 3 months until I become Mrs. Vale. You don't have to take my name. I want to. I want everything that comes with being yours. He smiled. Even the complicated family and the questionable past? Especially those. They made you who you are. Who am I? Lena thought about it, about the man who'd shown up when she needed help, who'd been honest about his flaws, who'd changed his entire life because he wanted to be better for her.
You're someone who keeps his promises, she said finally, someone who protects the people he loves, someone who's brave enough to change when it matters. That's not who I was 3 months ago. Maybe not, but it's who you chose to become. September arrived. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. Maya stood as maid of honor, still protective but genuinely happy. Sophia was there with Rachel. Elena cried through the entire ceremony. They got married in a garden, simple and intimate, nothing like the flashy affair Adrian could have afforded. When it came time for vows, Adrian took Lena's hands. 3 months ago, you sent a text to the wrong number, he said, and I almost didn't answer. I thought about ignoring it, about staying in my own world and letting you handle your problems alone. He squeezed her hands. But something made me respond, and that decision changed my life. You changed my life, made me want to be better, made me believe I could be better. I promised to spend every day proving you were right to trust me, to choose me, to love me. Lena's turn. She'd written her vows a dozen times and scrapped them all. In the end, she spoke from her heart. I was taught to play it safe, to make smart choices, to think things through. She smiled through her tears. And then I met you. And every smart choice, every safe option went out the window. Because you made me feel something I'd never felt before. You made me brave, made me willing to risk everything for something real. I promised to keep choosing you every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. They were pronounced married, kissed while people cheered, and Lena felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The reception was at Elena's house, music and dancing and food. At one point, Adrian pulled Lena away from the crowd. Come with me, he said. He led her to the room with the piano, sat down and pulled her beside him on the bench. Remember when you asked me to teach you? He said. Of course. I want to teach you something new, our song. He started playing, a melody Lena had heard him working on for weeks, beautiful and complex and somehow perfectly them. I wrote it for you, he said. For us, for everything we've built. Lena leaned her head on his shoulder and listened to him play. Through the doorway, she could see their families mingling, Maya laughing at something Sophia said, Elena dancing with one of Adrian's uncles. This was her life now, complicated and beautiful and nothing like she'd planned, and she wouldn't change a single thing. Later that night, after the guests had left and they were alone in their new apartment, Adrian pulled her close. No regrets? He asked. Not one. Even though it's been chaos? Especially because it's been chaos. Lena kissed him. Safe is overrated. I'd rather have real. We're definitely real. They were. Messy and imperfect and figuring it out as they went. But real. A year later, Lena was sitting in her first-year law class when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Her heart jumped for a second. Old habits. But when she opened it, it was just a wrong number. Someone asking about a delivery. She almost laughed. A year ago, a wrong number text had changed her entire life. Now it was just an annoyance. She deleted it and went back to her notes. That night, she told Adrian about it. Weird how things work out, he said. They were cooking dinner together, something they'd started doing as a way to spend time together despite her crazy school schedule. What do you mean? If you'd sent that text to the right person that night, we never would have met. You would have been fine, would have gotten away from Ethan eventually, gone on with your life. And you? I'd still be neck deep in business I hated, still trying to prove something to people who didn't matter. He set down the knife he was using to chop vegetables and looked at her. One mistake, one wrong number. That's all it took to change everything. Lena thought about that, about how the worst night of her life had led to the best year, about how a moment of panic had connected her to exactly the person she needed. Maybe it wasn't the wrong number, she said. Maybe it was exactly the right one. I just didn't know it yet. Adrian smiled. I like that better. They finished cooking, ate dinner, did the dishes, all the normal mundane things that made up a life. And Lena realized that this was what happiness looked like. Not perfect, not always easy, but real and honest and built on a foundation of trust. She'd been looking for safety when she'd sent that text. Instead, she'd found something better. She'd found home. 6 months later, Maya got married. Lena stood as her maid of honor, returning the favor. At the reception, Maya pulled her aside. I owe you an apology, Maya said. For what? For doubting Adrian, for thinking you were making a mistake. She looked over at where Adrian was talking with her new husband. You weren't. He's good for you. You're good for each other. You were just being protective. That's what best friends do.
Still, I should have trusted your judgment sooner. Maya squeezed her hand. You're happy. Really happy. I can see it. I am. Good. Because if he ever makes you unhappy, I'm still prepared to destroy him. I know that's what best friends do. They stood together, watching their partners laugh about something across the room. Two women who'd been through everything together and come out stronger. We did okay, Maya said. We did great. Life continued. Adrian's legitimate businesses thrived. Lena excelled in law school. They bought a house, talked about kids. Built a life that was completely normal on the surface but carried the weight of everything they'd been through underneath. Sometimes Lena thought about that night at Bellissimo, about Ethan's hand on her wrist and the fear that had made her reach for her phone, about the split-second decision to text for help instead of just leaving. She'd made so many choices that night, small ones that had snowballed into everything that came after. And while she'd never be grateful for the fear or the danger, she was grateful for where it had led her. Because sometimes the worst moments in your life are just the beginning of something you never knew you needed. Sometimes a wrong number is exactly right. And sometimes the person who saves you is the one you end up saving right back. 3 years after that first night, Lena graduated from law school. Adrian was in the front row with his family, cheering louder than anyone when she walked across the stage. At the celebration dinner afterward, Elena raised a toast. To Lena, who came into our lives by accident and became essential by choice. To Lena, everyone echoed. Lena looked around the table, at Maya and her husband, at Sophia and Rachel, at Elena, at Adrian, who was watching her with so much love it made her chest ache. This was her family now, chosen and complicated and perfect in its imperfection. Thank you, she said, for everything. We should be thanking you, Adrian said. You saved me, remember? We saved each other, and that was the truth. Not the sanitized version they told at parties or the dramatic story people assumed, just the simple truth that two people had found each other at exactly the right moment and chosen to hold on. Years later, when people asked how they met, Lena would smile and say, I sent a text to the wrong number. And Adrian would add, best mistake she ever made. It was a good story, the kind people love to hear, romantic and serendipitous and full of hope. But the real story was longer, messier, full of moments that weren't pretty or easy or simple. The real story was about two imperfect people who chose each other anyway, who worked through fear and danger and doubt to build something real. The real story was about learning that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be better and choosing them every single day. And that story was still being written, one choice at a time, one day at a time. One moment of trust building into forever. Because in the end, that's all love really is. A series of small choices that add up to something bigger than yourself. A willingness to be vulnerable. To risk everything for the possibility of something real. Lena had taken that risk 3 years ago when she'd gotten into Adrian's car. And she'd keep taking it for the rest of her life. Because some people are worth the risk. Some loves are worth the fight. And sometimes the scariest decision you ever make turns out to be the best one.